Captain William Boyd stood tall as the doors to the Galactic Council chamber opened. His blue uniform was crisp, his posture perfect. This was humanity's big moment. After years of careful space exploration, humans had finally been invited to meet the leaders of the 17 most advanced species in the galaxy. "Remember," he whispered to Admiral Lisa Green beside him, "we're here to make friends, not enemies." Lisa nodded, her gray eyes scanning the massive room. Beings of all shapes and sizes sat in a half-circle on raised platforms. Some had too many eyes. Others had skin that changed colors. A few seemed to float above their seats. "The human delegation may approach," boomed a voice from speakers around the room. William and Lisa walked forward with slow, careful steps. 3 other humans followed behind them. The floor was made of some clear material that showed stars moving beneath their feet. William tried not to look down. "We welcome Earth's representatives," said a tall purple being with 4 arms. "I am Grand Counselor HFY of the Galactic Council. We have watched your species for some time." William bowed slightly. "We are honored to be here." Humanity extends its hand in friendship and peaceful cooperation. A low rumble of what sounded like laughter spread through the room. William felt his face grow warm. "How very typical," said a red-skinned creature with spikes along its back. "The human speaks of peace before anything else." "The Vrolthar ambassador speaks truth," said another alien with glowing blue eyes. "We have observed how your kind explores space, so slowly, so carefully, always sending robots first, always choosing to retreat when faced with the unknown." William kept his smile in place, though it was getting harder. "We believe in thorough research and minimizing risk to all life forms." More laughter followed. "You mean you fear death," said the Vrolthar ambassador. His voice was like rocks grinding together. "Your species clings to life like it is something precious. You negotiate rather than fight. You compromise rather than conquer." Admiral Lisa Green stepped forward. Though shorter than William, she somehow seemed to fill more space. "With respect," she said, her voice firm, "caution should not be confused with cowardice. Humans value life. Yes, we seek peaceful solutions when possible, but that doesn't mean we won't defend ourselves if needed." The Grand Counselor waved 2 of his 4 hands dismissively. "Yes, yes. We have reviewed your military capabilities as well. Quite primitive. Your most advanced weapons would barely damage the shields on our smallest vessels." The council chamber filled with more open laughter now. William felt his hands tighten into fists. He forced them to relax. "Perhaps," Lisa said, her words cutting through the laughter, "there are things about humans you don't yet understand." "Oh." The Grand Counselor's large eyes blinked slowly. "And what might those be, Admiral Green?" Lisa smiled thinly. "That's the point. You don't know what you don't know." Silence fell for a moment before the Vrolthar ambassador burst into what sounded like coughing laughter. "The little human threatens us. How amusing." The Grand Counselor raised a hand for quiet. "After careful consideration, the Council has decided to grant humanity protected species status. This means you will be allowed to maintain your current territories, but expansion beyond your solar system will require Council approval. You will benefit from our protection and guidance as you mature." William felt his jaw tighten. Protected species was a diplomatic way of saying children who need supervision. "The Council's generosity is noted," he said carefully. "Do not mistake our kindness for weakness," the Grand Counselor added. "Those who defy the Council soon regret it." As William and Lisa turned to leave, the laughter started again behind them. Lisa walked stiffly, her back straight as a rod. "This didn't go well," William whispered. Lisa's eyes were cold as she replied, "No, it didn't. But they'll learn their mistakes soon enough." The human delegation left the chamber, the sound of alien laughter following them down the long corridor. 6 months had passed since the first meeting with the Galactic Council. The Earth government had built a special room for alien communications in the White House. President Olivia Martinez sat at the large round table, facing the hologram of Grand Counselor HFY. His purple face showed no emotion as he spoke. "The Council has decided that humans are not using their resources well enough," he said. "You will hand over control of your moon mines and Mars colonies to Council representatives. We will show you how to properly manage these operations." President Martinez kept her face calm, though anger burned inside her. "This is quite sudden, Grand Counselor. These facilities represent years of human work and investment. Yet they operate at only 40% of possible efficiency," said HFY. "Your primitive methods waste valuable materials that the galaxy needs." A red-skinned figure stepped into view beside HFY. It was the Vrolthar ambassador. "Perhaps the humans are too afraid to refuse," he said with a sound like grinding stones. "They always choose the safe path after all." President Martinez sat up straighter. "Earth requests time to prepare for this transition. 3 months would allow us to properly brief your representatives on our operations." The aliens looked at each other. The Vrolthar made that coughing laugh sound again. "3 months is granted," said HFY. "Our Drakari enforcement fleet will position itself near your solar system to ensure a smooth handover." The hologram disappeared. The room was silent for a moment. General Chris Duncan slammed his fist on the table. "They're taking our colonies, and we're just going to ask for more time." President Martinez stood up. "The Council sees what we want them to see, General." She walked to a small panel on the wall and placed her hand on it. The panel glowed blue, then green. "Computer, activate Protocol Thunderbolt," she said clearly. "Authorization Martinez Alpha 74. "Protocol Thunderbolt activated," said a computer voice. The large screen on the wall lit up, showing a man in a dark uniform. He had a short beard and serious eyes. "Commander John Rivera reporting from Triton Base, Madam President." "John, the situation has developed as we predicted," said Martinez. "The Council has made their move. They've given us 3 months. Are we ready?" Commander Rivera nodded. "The fleet is at 92% readiness. We can have all ships operational within 8 weeks." "Good. Remain on standby and continue preparations. Keep all communications under ghost protocols." The screen went dark. General Duncan looked at the president with new respect. "You were expecting this," he said. "From the moment our scouts first detected alien signals, we've been preparing," she replied. "The public knows about our official space program, the cautious one, the one that makes the Council think we're weak." She touched another panel, and a 3D map of the solar system appeared, showing hundreds of small dots hidden throughout the asteroid belt and around several planets. "They don't know about these," she said. "Our real fleet." Across the solar system, hidden doors opened in the surfaces of asteroids and moons. Inside hidden bases, men and women in dark uniforms moved with purpose. Ships that had never seen the light of day powered up. Weapons were loaded. Systems were checked. On Neptune's moon Triton, Commander Rivera walked through a massive underground hangar. The ceiling was hundreds of feet high. Engineers worked on ships that looked nothing like the clumsy vessels Earth officially used for space travel. These were sleek, dark, and built for war. Chief Engineer Susan Miller approached him with a tablet. "The Ghost Drive is fully operational on all vessels," she reported. "The Drakari won't see us coming." "And our weapons systems?" Rivera asked. "Better than anything the Council has seen before," she replied with a small smile. "They think we're primitives. They're about to learn how wrong they are." Meanwhile, on the edge of the solar system, the Drakari fleet appeared. 20 large warships, moving into position to enforce the Council's demands. They expected no resistance. They were in for a surprise. Deep beneath the cloud cover of Venus, in a facility unknown to most humans, Chief Engineer Susan Miller watched her team make final adjustments to the flagship of Earth's hidden fleet. The massive ship, named Defiance *, stretched nearly a mile long. Its dark hull absorbed light rather than reflected it. "Run the final tests on the Ghost Drive," Susan ordered. Her assistant nodded and began typing commands into a console. The ghost drive was humanity's greatest secret. 20 years ago, a small alien scout ship had crashed in the Arizona desert. The ship and its dead pilot were quickly hidden by government forces. Engineers had spent decades studying the technology, improving it, and combining it with human innovation. Ghost drive operating at 100% efficiency, reported the assistant. Susan smiled. The Thrakari ships use standard energy detection systems. They won't see us until it's too late. Across the room, Dr. Alan Foster worked with a team of scientists around a glowing blue cube. The cube pulsed with light as data streamed across multiple screens. "How's the quantum neural network coming along?" Susan asked as she approached. Alan looked up from his work. "Better than expected. We've run 17 different battle simulations. The QNN has predicted enemy movements with 98% accuracy. Can it predict what the Thrakari will do when they realize we're not as helpless as they think?" Ellen smiled. "That's the best part. According to our simulations, their training makes them predictable. When surprised, they fall back on standard attack patterns. The QNN knows all of them." On the other side of the solar system, stealth scout ships moved silently near the Thrakari fleet. The small vessels were nearly invisible, using both the ghost drive technology and special materials that absorbed sensor scans. Inside one scout ship, Lieutenant Peter Clark and his co-pilot carefully mapped the enemy formation. "They're not even in battle formation," Peter noted. "They're so confident we're not a threat that they're barely maintaining security protocols." "Makes our job easier," his co-pilot replied as she tagged another Thrakari vessel on their mapping system. "Their flagship is the big one in the center. Looks like they have their shield generators on minimal power to save energy. Overconfidence will be their downfall," Peter said. The scout ship continued its silent mission, gathering vital information that was transmitted back to the hidden bases using quantum communication channels that the Thrakari couldn't detect or intercept. Meanwhile, in Washington, D.C., President Martinez met with Ambassador Kevin Wright. They sat in a small, secure room deep under the White House. "The documents are prepared," Wright said, sliding a slim metal case across the table. "They look exactly like surrender papers. The Thrakari won't suspect anything unusual." Martinez opened the case. Inside was what appeared to be a simple tablet, but it was much more than that. "This contains the activation codes?" she asked. Wright nodded. "When I press this sequence, it will send the signal to all our ships. The Ghost Fleet will decloak simultaneously. The Thrakari won't have time to raise their shields to full power." "And you're willing to go on this mission? It's extremely dangerous." Wright's face was serious. "Madam President," I volunteered. "Someone needs to see the look on their faces when they realize how wrong they've been about us." Back on Venus, Commander John Rivera addressed the assembled crew of the Defiance *. Thousands of men and women stood at attention in the massive launch bay. "For decades, humanity has been preparing for this moment," he said, his voice echoing through the chamber. "While the world built shopping malls and sports stadiums, we built this fleet. While politicians debated budget cuts, we trained. The Galactic Council believes we are cowards because we are careful. They mistake patience for weakness." He paused, looking at the determined faces before him. "In 2 days, Ambassador Wright will meet with the Thrakari commander. When he does, we will show the galaxy that humanity is not to be underestimated. Prepare your stations, run your final checks. Soon, we go to war." Throughout the solar system, in hidden bases on moons, asteroids, and planets, similar speeches were being given. Ships were being fueled. Weapons were being loaded. The Ghost Fleet was awakening. The day of the meeting arrived. The Thrakari flagship hung in space just beyond Earth's moon. It was massive, with sharp angles and weapons ports visible along its hull. Compared to this monster, the small human shuttle approaching it looked like a toy. Inside the shuttle, Ambassador Kevin Wright adjusted his tie. The metal case containing what appeared to be surrender documents sat on the seat beside him. His heart beat faster, but his hands were steady. "We're being hailed by the Thrakari ship," said the pilot. "Put them through," Kevin replied. A harsh voice filled the cabin. "Human vessel, you are cleared to dock in Bay 4. Any deviation from your approach path will result in immediate destruction." "Understood," said the pilot. "Following your guidance." Kevin took a deep breath. Everything now depended on his performance. The shuttle glided into the massive docking bay of the Thrakari ship. Armed guards waited as the doors opened and the boarding ramp extended. "Remember," Kevin whispered to his pilot, "once I'm inside, return to safe distance immediately." The pilot nodded. "Good luck, sir." Kevin walked down the ramp, case in hand. The Thrakari guards were tall, with gray-scaled skin and yellow eyes. They wore armor that made them look even larger. They searched him roughly, but the case passed their scans. It contained no conventional weapons. "Follow," one guard ordered. Kevin was led through long corridors to a large room. The Thrakari commander sat on a raised platform. He was bigger than the others, with red markings on his scales. "So," the commander said, his voice like gravel, "the humans send one small man to surrender their world." Kevin placed the case on a table and opened it. "I bring the transfer documents as requested by the Galactic Council." The commander made a sound like rocks grinding together. Kevin realized it was laughter. 3 months you asked for. 3 months of delay. For what? To prepare these papers. The commander stood, towering over Kevin. "Your species truly is pathetic. No fight. No resistance. Just surrender." Kevin's face remained calm. "We simply recognized the situation for what it was." "And what was it, human?" "An opportunity," Kevin said softly. The commander leaned down. "Speak up, coward. I cannot hear your mumbling." Kevin looked directly into the alien's yellow eyes. "I said, an opportunity. You see, appearances can be deceiving." He pressed a sequence on the tablet in the case. A small light blinked green. "What is that?" demanded the commander. Kevin smiled. "That is humanity's response to your demands." Throughout the solar system, hidden ships received the signal. Ghost drives powered down. Ships appeared where before there had been empty space, inside the Thrakari fleet, around it, behind it, hundreds of them, weapons ready. On board the Defiance *, Commander Rivera gave the order. "All ships, execute Phase 1. From each human vessel, small devices launched toward the nearest Thrakari ship. They attached to hulls, unnoticed by the aliens who were still trying to understand what was happening." The Thrakari commander's communication device buzzed urgently. "Sir, enemy vessels have appeared throughout our formation." "Impossible," roared the commander. He turned to Kevin with fury in his eyes. "What trickery is this?" "Not trickery," Kevin replied calmly. "Strategy." On the Defiance *, Susan Miller watched her console as the devices attached to the Thrakari ships sent back confirmation signals. "All EMP devices in place," she reported. "Activate," ordered Rivera. Susan pressed a button. Across space, the small devices activated simultaneously. Powerful electromagnetic pulses ripped through the Thrakari vessels. Lights flickered and died. Engines shut down. Weapons systems went offline. In the commander's chamber, the lights cut out. Emergency systems kicked in, casting the room in dim red light. "What have you done?" The commander growled, reaching for Kevin. "We disabled your ships," Kevin said, stepping back. "Don't worry, life support will continue functioning. We're not monsters." Outside, half the Thrakari fleet drifted powerless in space. The remaining ships, caught by surprise, tried to form a defensive pattern. But human vessels were already moving, faster and more nimble than the aliens expected. Precision strikes disabled weapons and engines without destroying the ships completely. "Sir," said a communications officer on the Defiance *, "the remaining Thrakari vessels are retreating." Rivera nodded. "Let them go. We want survivors to report what happened here. The Drekari commander watched on emergency screens as his mighty fleet was humiliated by the supposedly cowardly humans. You will pay for this, he snarled at Kevin. The full might of the council will descend upon your world. Kevin nodded. We're counting on it. News of the Drekari defeat spread quickly through the galaxy. On the Galactic Council's massive space station, representatives from the 17 ruling species gathered in emergency session. The room buzzed with angry voices. Grand Counselor Zexva pounded his desk with two of his forearms. Silence. We must address this crisis with clear minds. The Vrolthar ambassador's spikes bristled. The humans tricked us. They pretended to be weak while building a secret fleet. This deception cannot stand. A hologram appeared in the center of the chamber. It showed the damaged Drekari ships limping back to their home system. Half their fleet disabled without a single ship destroyed, said Council strategist Zex Toril. The humans used electromagnetic pulse weapons. Primitive technology, but deployed with surprising effectiveness. It was a lucky attack, growled the Drekari representative. They caught our ships with shields down. This will not happen again. Zexva nodded. We will send the Council elite force to Earth. 100 of our most powerful warships. They will crush this human rebellion once and for all. What the Council didn't know was that their meeting had uninvited guests. In a maintenance tunnel above the chamber, Colonel Mary Patterson and her team of 5 humans lay flat, listening through special devices. They wore tight-fitting black uniforms that blocked life sign scanners. They're sending their big guns, whispered Lieutenant Frank Cooper, the team's communication specialist. Mary nodded. Keep recording. We need everything they say. The Council continued its meeting. The humans must be taught a lesson, said the Vrolthar ambassador. Their punishment will show all protected species what happens when they defy us. Perhaps we should review our approach to protected species in general, suggested a small blue-skinned representative. If the humans could hide their true capabilities, maybe others. Nonsense, interrupted Zexva. The others are even more primitive. The humans are an exception. Once they are dealt with, we will tighten our control on all protected worlds. Mary signaled to her team to move. They crawled silently through the tunnels until they reached a large room filled with blinking equipment. This was the Council's main communication hub. Set up here, Mary ordered. Cooper, can you access their system? Frank nodded, connecting a small device to the main console. Their security is good, but our AI is better. I'm in. Download everything, said Mary. Special focus on their communications with protected worlds. Frank worked quickly. Colonel, you need to see this. Mary looked at his screen. It showed messages between council members and mining corporations, plans for stripping resources from protected planets, work camps, exploitation on a massive scale. They'd been using protected status as a cover to take whatever they want, Frank said, anger in his voice. They declare a species protected, then slowly drain their worlds of resources while keeping them technologically dependent. How many worlds? At least 32 that I can see here, all thinking the Council is helping them, while actually being robbed. Mary's face hardened. Download it all. Then set up the broadcast package. Frank connected another device. Broadcasting to all protected worlds will trigger every alarm in the system. That's why we need to be gone before it starts, Mary replied. Set it for 15 minutes. The team worked efficiently, downloading data and setting up the broadcast. When they finished, Mary led them back through the tunnels to their hidden ship, docked disguised as a maintenance vessel. As they pulled away from the station, Frank activated the broadcast. Across the galaxy, on 32 worlds, beings of all kinds received the same message. The truth about the Galactic Council's exploitation. Back on the Council station, alarms blared. Zexve rushed to the communication center. What is happening? He demanded. Someone has accessed our secure files, a technician reported. They're broadcasting to all protected worlds. Shut it down. We can't. The system is locked. On Earth, President Martinez watched the incoming transmissions with satisfaction. Across the screen, messages poured in from other protected worlds. Questions, anger, offers of alliance. It worked, she told her advisors. Phase 2 complete. Colonel Patterson's team got the evidence we needed. And the other species? Asked General Duncan. Will they join us? Several already want to meet, Martins replied. The Council's band of slaves is breaking apart. In deep space, the Council elite force prepared for departure. 100 massive warships, armed with the most powerful weapons in the galaxy. Their target, Earth. Their mission, total subjugation. They had no idea that their enemies were no longer just humans, but were growing by the hour. Jupiter's moon Europa glowed with blue-white ice under the distant sun. Below this frozen surface, humans had built a secret base years ago. Now this hidden place served a new purpose. In a large meeting room carved from the ice and rock, representatives from 7 alien species sat around a circular table with human leaders. The room was kept cold to accommodate the different environmental needs of the visitors. General Paul Johnson stood at the head of the table. His weathered face showed the strain of recent days, but his voice remained strong. "Thank you all for taking the risk to come here," he said. "Each of you represents a world that has suffered under the Council's so-called protection." A tall, thin alien with gray skin and large black eyes spoke first. "I am Senil of the Talaxians. For 30 years, we believed the Council was helping us develop our civilization. Now we know they were stealing our minerals while keeping us dependent on their technology." The Vorani have a similar story, said a smaller being covered in short purple fur. "They took our biological research and gave us outdated medical equipment in return. Many of my people died from curable diseases, while the Council profited from our scientists' work." One by one, each representative shared their story. The pattern was the same: exploitation disguised as assistance, theft masked as charity. "We all believed we were alone," said Paul. "The Council kept us separated, told each world that the others were happy with the arrangement. They never expected us to communicate directly." Ambassador Linda Harris, Earth's diplomatic expert, stepped forward. "What we propose today is an alliance. Together, we can stand against the Council. Separate, we will fall one by one." "But how can we fight?" asked the Talaxian. "The Council's military power is enormous." Paul smiled. "Each of your worlds has strengths the Council doesn't know about. Just as they underestimated humans, they've underestimated all of you." He pressed a button, and a holographic display appeared above the table. It showed technical specifications for Earth's ghost ships and weapons. "We will share our technology freely with all Alliance members," Paul said. "No secrets between allies." The Talaxian's large eyes widened. "Your ghost drive technology is impressive. We have advanced shield systems that could complement it." "The Vorani can offer biological countermeasures," added the purple-furred representative. "Ways to temporarily disable enemy crews without permanent harm." Around the table, each species began suggesting technologies and strategies they could contribute. The mood in the room shifted from caution to excitement. Meanwhile, in Earth orbit, Major Diane Scott supervised the transformation of civilian ships into combat vessels. Workers attached weapon systems and shield generators to cargo haulers and passenger liners. "Will these hold up in a real fight?" asked a young officer next to her. "They don't need to win battles," Diane explained. "They just need to look threatening and draw fire away from our main fleet." Across Earth's solar system, similar preparations were underway. Mining ships were fitted with electronic warfare packages. Science vessels received sensor upgrades to detect enemy movements. On the Defiance Asterisk, Commander Rivera studied battle plans with Admiral Green. "The Council fleet will arrive in approximately 2 weeks," he said, "and they're coming with everything they have." Admiral Green nodded. "Good. That means their homeworlds will have reduced defenses. You think we can win against 100 of their elite warships?" "Win?" Green smiled. No, but we don't need to win that battle. We just need to hold them long enough. Long enough for what? For our new allies to strike their weakly defended core worlds, she replied. The Council never imagined they'd face a coordinated attack from multiple directions. Back on Europa, the meeting concluded with a formal agreement. The Freedom Alliance was born. Representatives from each world placed their hands, or equivalent appendages, together in the center of the table. We stand together, they said in their various languages. As the alien representatives prepared to return to their worlds with plans and technologies to share, Paul Johnson watched with a mixture of hope and concern. Do you think it will be enough? Linda asked quietly. It has to be, Paul replied. The Council fleet is coming, and we're running out of time. The day of battle arrived. The Council's elite force appeared at the edge of the solar system in a flash of light. 100 massive warships, each bristling with weapons. They moved in perfect formation toward Earth. On the bridge of the Defiance Admiral Lisa Green watched the enemy approach on the main screen. Her face showed no fear, but her eyes narrowed as she studied their movements. They're exactly where we expected, she said. Quantum neural network predictions were accurate to within 2%. Commander Rivera stood beside her. All ships report ready, Admiral. The converted civilian vessels are in position to draw their fire. And Captain Nelson's team. In position and awaiting your command. Lisa nodded. Then it's time. All ships, execute defensive pattern Alpha. Throughout the solar system, human vessels moved into position. The Council fleet pushed forward, their massive guns firing the moment they came into range. Energy beams sliced through space, hitting the shields of the converted cargo and passenger ships. Enemy flagship identified, reported a sensor officer. It's the one in the center, twice the size of the others. Lisa's eyes fixed on the massive vessel. That's our target. Tell Captain Nelson to proceed. Captain Richard Nelson and his team of 20 waited in their small, fast ship, hidden among the asteroids of the outer belt. Their vessel was different from the others, smaller, faster, and equipped with the newest version of the Ghost Drive. We have the Ghost signal, said his communications officer, Laura Wilson. Admiral Green says to proceed. Richard took a deep breath. Activate Ghost Drive. Full power to engines once we're invisible. The ship vanished from sensors as it accelerated toward the heart of the Council fleet. Their mission was nearly suicide. To get close enough to the Council flagship to deploy a new weapon developed by Dr. Foster's team. How long until they detect us? Richard asked his science officer. The Ghost Drive should hold for approximately 10 minutes at this output level. We need 8 to reach deployment range. The small ship raced unseen through the massive battle. All around them, energy beams and missiles crisscrossed space. Human vessels with their new Talaxian shields held better than expected, but they were still outnumbered. 5 minutes to target, reported the pilot. Suddenly, their ship shook violently. We've been hit, shouted the engineer. Random fire from one of the Council ships passed through our location. Damage report, Richard demanded. Ghost Drive failing. We'll be visible in 30 seconds. Richard made a quick decision. Route all power to engines and weapons. If we can't hide, we'll just have to be fast. Their ship became visible, a tiny vessel amid the giants of the Council fleet. Immediately, enemy ships turned their guns toward them. Evasive maneuvers, Richard ordered. We need 3 more minutes to reach deployment range. The ship twisted and turned, dodging energy beams. One hit their rear shields, causing the lights to flicker. Shields at 40%, the engineer reported. We're not going to make it, said the pilot as more enemy ships moved to intercept them. Richard looked at his crew. We have to. The entire alliance is counting on us. Another hit rocked the ship. Shields at 15%. 2 minutes to deployment range, said the science officer. Laura Wilson, the communications officer, suddenly stood from her station. I'm opening a channel to all frequencies. What are you doing? Richard asked. "Giving us a chance," she replied. She activated the system and spoke clearly, her voice broadcasting to every ship in range. "Attention Council vessels. This is Lieutenant Laura Wilson of Earth. Listen carefully. We never feared fighting. We just preferred not to. Remember that difference." The unexpected message caused a moment of confusion among the Council ships. Their fire hesitated just long enough for Richard's ship to slip through their line. "Deployment range achieved," called out the science officer. "Launch the quantum disruptor," Richard ordered. A small device ejected from their ship, speeding toward the Council flagship. It attached to the massive vessel's hull just as Richard's ship took another hit. "Shields failing. Hull breach on Deck 3. "Activate the disruptor," Richard said calmly. The science officer pressed a sequence of buttons. The small device on the Council flagship glowed bright blue, then expanded into a sphere of energy that enveloped the massive ship. Space itself seemed to bend and twist around it. The Council flagship's weapons went silent. Its engines died. The same effect spread to the nearest Council ships, disabling them without destroying them. "It worked," whispered Richard as his damaged ship drifted. The quantum disruption field worked. 1 year later, the massive space station that once housed the Galactic Council looked very different. The Grand Chamber had been rebuilt. Instead of raised platforms for the 17 ruling species, there was now a single large circular table. Around it sat representatives from over 50 worlds, including the former protected species. Ambassador Craig Mitchell of Earth stood to address the gathered delegates. The room fell silent. "1 year ago, we fought for our freedom against those who saw caution as weakness and patience as cowardice," he said. "Today, we meet not as rulers and subjects, but as equals." Cray held up a document. "The Galactic Accord before you establishes a new framework for interstellar relations, one based on mutual respect and cooperation rather than domination and exploitation." The former Grand Counselor Zexba sat in a much smaller chair than before. The four-armed alien looked diminished somehow. "And what of those you have labeled as criminals?" he asked bitterly. "The former council leaders await your judgment like common thieves." The Talaxian representative stood. "You are not thieves, Zexba. Thieves merely take possessions. You stole futures. You kept entire civilizations from reaching their potential, so you could profit from their resources. We offered protection." Zexba protested. "No," said Craig firmly. "You offered a cage disguised as safety. The trial will proceed next month, and evidence from all affected worlds will be presented. After the meeting, Admiral Lisa Green, President Martinez, and representatives from the Freedom Alliance gathered in a private room. "The new Galactic Assembly is working better than expected," said President Martinez. "More worlds join each month as news spreads." "And the former council species?" asked Lisa. "Most have accepted the new reality," replied Xenil of the Talaxians. "Only a few hardliners still resist." The Vorani representative nodded. "They are learning that cooperation brings more benefits than conquest." President Martinez looked around the table at the diverse beings gathered there. Some breathed different air. Some had evolved on worlds twice Earth's gravity. Some communicated partially through color changes in their skin. Yet all had found common ground. "I've been thinking about something," she said, "about why humanity prepared for war for so long while hoping to avoid it." The others turned to her with interest. "Humans have a violent history," she continued. "For thousands of years, we fought each other. Tribe against tribe. Nation against nation. We nearly destroyed ourselves more than once, but we learned from those mistakes." She paused, gathering her thoughts. "When we looked to the stars, we hoped to find peace, but we prepared for war because we knew what intelligent beings are capable of when they seek power. The Council mistook our desire for peace as fear. They never understood that the most dangerous fighters are often those who know the true cost of fighting." Lisa nodded in agreement. "We build weapons so we don't have to use them. We train for battle so we can avoid it. But when pushed too far, you respond with unexpected strength," finished Sentinel. My people are beginning to understand this wisdom. On the observation deck of the station, Craig Mitchell stood alone, looking out at the stars. Captain William Boyd, who had led that first diplomatic mission, joined him. "Quite a view," William said. "Different perspective than a year ago." Craig nodded. "The Galactic Council laughed at us, called us cowards. Now they understand that choosing peace isn't the same as fearing war." "Do you think it will last, this new arrangement?" "I hope so," Craig replied. "The trial of the former council leaders will be difficult. Some want harsh punishment, others prefer mercy." "And what do humans want?" asked William. Craig thought for a moment. "Justice, but also a new beginning. The council species aren't our enemies anymore. They're our neighbors in a very large galaxy." William smiled. "Speaking of large galaxies, the long-range scouts have returned from the Andromeda exploration. They found something interesting. Friendly, I hope. Unknown. But this time, when we make first contact, we'll do it as part of the Galactic Assembly. Not alone. Together," Craig agreed, looking out at the endless stars. "That's how we'll face whatever comes next." Far beyond the station, a ship returned from the depths of space. Its crew had seen wonders and terrors. And as humanity and its allies celebrated their new peace, new challenges were already emerging from the darkness between the stars. But this time, they would face them as one. The cowards who weren't cowards had changed the galaxy forever.